We're here with Comrade Dermot Hudson from the KFAUK. We're here in Tarragona, Spain for the KFA International trip. We just want to ask him a few questions from the KFAUSA. So the first question is, how did you first get interested in the DPRK?
Right, well, I first got interested in the DPRK in the early and mid-1980s. I'd been a member of the old revisionist Communist Party of Great Britain, and I'd become very disillusioned both with the revisionist and reformist politics of the CPGB and also with the Soviet Union. So I was looking for something new, something different, a new revolutionary path. And in those days, it was incredibly hard to find any kind of information about the DPRK. In fact, it still is. You can find plenty of misinformation, disinformation, very little real information. But it's perhaps better nowadays because you've got DPRK media sites like KCNA and NARA and so on. And of course you've got the KFA. But in those days, very, very hard. And all I came across was a couple of very hostile articles in the media, except for one that was sort of a bit less hostile, one in the Observer colour magazine, which did contain some very good photographs of the DPRK, but that was really sort of one-off for the British media. Usually the DPRK would not be mentioned at all, and if it was mentioned in a very, very hostile manner. So, I resolved to try and find out more about the DPRK, the Democratic Republic of Korea. Just the same as to read one or two articles in the press, one or two articles by bourgeois academics like Bruce Cummings. Finally, one day, I found a copy of Volume 5 of President Wilson's selected works, covering the period from the mid-60s to 1970, and a little booklet I've still got called Korean Review 1974 edition. And once I read those two books, my interest and sympathy with the DPRK really took off. Very impressed by the achievements of the DPRK in industry and agriculture and in some social public services, housing and so on. I mean, it seemed incredible. In fact, it still is incredible that housing in the DPRK is either very, very free or very, very, very low cost, sort of nominal cost. And that's something, that you can never stop being amazed about when you look at the high property prices in places like London and other European countries and the US, and the high rents. So, basically that's how I got interested in the DPRK. To me, countries like the USSR and the so-called socialist countries of Eastern Europe were not a model. Though at the time we still had people in Britain who, worshipped the Soviet Union, and anything the Soviet Union did was right, even when the Soviet Union was clearly selling out and destroying itself by introducing perestroika and glasnost. Some of these people would say, oh no, it's a big country, they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And I even remember someone saying, we want glasnost and perestroika for Britain. So I thought, what do you mean by that? Anyway, getting off the main track here, so those kind of countries were no longer models for me. Yeah. But the DPRK really inspired me, because of its achievements and because of its strong independence, its militant anti-imperialism, which I'd not really seen before. Certainly not in the old secret GB, full of mealy-mouthed and faint-hearted slogans about peace. And, not really with the Soviets, it was really strong anti-imperialist stuff talking about destroying US imperialism. That impressed me. And, the line of independence, like during the split in the international communist movement, the DPRK maintained its own independent position, neither accepting modern revisionism or left opportunism. That's basically how I became interested.
How did you come to learn about and join the KFA?
Well, I had formed my own organisation, the Future Study Group of England, in the 1980s, which is now the British Group for the Study of the Future there. And I've been involved in different pro-DPRK solidarity organisations in Britain, like the old Korea Friendship Committee and like the Society for Friendship with Korea. These tend to be not too active. Some of the work is quite intermittent, in terms of activity. In fact, the old Korea Friendship Committee, I won't use its abbreviation KFC because that would cause confusion. I mean, I remember once that did nothing for 2 years. Suddenly one day, quite by chance, I was looking at the internet in a public library, because in those days, around 2001, the internet was quite a newfangled thing for me. I didn't have a computer at home. Used to use the computer in public libraries, 1 hour, we pay £1 or something like that. And came across the KFA. And I thought, wow, this looks like a very good organisation, very pro DPRK, totally straight down the line, pro DPRK, basically out there on the internet. That was a very important thing. And I was impressed by its strong and militant defence of the DPRK, because some organisations really didn't do that. I think, one or two organisations weren't really countering propaganda against the DPRK, but KFA was. So I joined as an ordinary member, got in touch with Alejandro, had email correspondence with him, very impressed by him as a true militant of Duce, soldier of people's career, basically. And I became the official delegate for the UK in March 2001. I've really never looked back since.
So I understand you've actually been to the DPRK a few times. What would you say is your most memorable or notable experience there?
Well, I've been there 18 times. Each visit is unique. Each time I learn something different. I think it would take a lifetime to learn about the DPRK. It's hard to say which was the most memorable, because I've been to several keynote events and all have been fantastic. I think among the more memorable events was actually going for the 100th anniversary of the birth of President Kim Il-sung, when they organised the World Duce Congress in Pyongyang, and had a huge number of delegations come to Pyongyang. In fact, the hotels were bursting to the seams. They were jam-packed, and in fact, several different DPRK entities held events. So some people were invited by the Korean Association of Social Scientists, some by the DPRK Committee for Cultural Relations with foreign countries, and I think others by the International Spring Festival, and also there was a martial arts event going on at the same time, so there was an incredible number of people. And, you know, I participated in the World Duke Shake Congress. You know, I think one of the greatest things was actually being in Kimmelson Square for the military parade and hearing respected Marshal Kim Jong-un speak in public for the very first time and make that very significant speech, which I mentioned in my presentation yesterday. So I think that's maybe probably the most memorable occasions being in the DPRK. I mean, I was also there for the anniversary of the Fatherland Liberation War victory in 2013, and I just remember the incredible military parade where the helicopters actually flew down the streets and swooped over Kimmelson Square in an amazing feat of aerobatics. And, you know, I saw the parade in 2015 for the 70th anniversary of the foundation of WPK, and it was also there in 2017. So those were quite memorable. Also have good memories of visiting the DPRK in the 90s, going to the old Duchag Academy. That was quite good. And yeah, I mean, just as an interesting anecdote from one of my trips, which again is quite memorable, 2015, I had a young woman guide from the Pyongyang University of Foreign Studies, and we were at the 10,000 strong performance on the River Taedong, which in itself was quite an interesting event where they had the floating stage on the river with 10,000 performers. But in the interval, because it got quite cold, I mean, we thought it was a good idea to go and look to get a cup of coffee to warm up and also stay awake, because this was being held very late at night. So we went off across the centre of Pyongyang to try and find a coffee shop, which I thought would be doubtful, because it was like 4 days of public holiday with DPRK. When they had a keynote anniversary, they extended the public holiday from 1 day to 4 days.
Okay.
But I mean, we ended up actually buying coffee from a store because we didn't find anywhere. But it was interesting. So it went all over the centre of Pyongyang. And the two things about this was, firstly, you didn't see a single homeless person or beggar anywhere, which, you know, if you go across London, I'm sure, New York or Seattle or San Francisco at night, and indeed in Tarragona, here in Spain, you would see homeless people begging. Didn't see that at all. The other thing is, you know, some of the propaganda against the DPRK says that when you go there, everything is carefully scripted, carefully planned, even that the people you see are really actors. Yep. But this was totally unscripted. It was a spur of the moment decision to try and find coffee. There was nothing scripted or pre-planned about this. And as I say, it was quite interesting, sort of, you know, walking across that central area in Pyongyang from Kimmelson Square right to Changzhong Street. Yes. So, you know, saw quite a lot of the DPRK at night.
Awesome. So how's your experience been building up the KFAUK, and what do you hope to do with it in the future?
Well, you know, we've been around 20 years. I think the main positive is that simply that we exist, because there's many enemies of KFA who would like it if we didn't exist, would like it if there was no support at all for the DPRK in Britain, or indeed in Spain, Europe, US, anywhere, but particularly in Britain and some other countries. They'd like to wipe out KFA, or at best have very, very, very limited sort of peacenik type support for the DPRK. So our main achievement is sort of holding together. Over the last 20 years, we've organised all kinds of activities that have been quite, I think, diverse. We'd like to diversify them more, but we've held meetings, we've held seminars with the Future Idea Study Group and the Association of Study of Southern Politics. We've taken the argument onto the streets. We've picketed the US Embassy because they made it difficult for us, because they moved the location of the US Embassy in London from central London to the back streets of Vauxhall, and put a moat in front of the US Embassy. But we picketed the US Embassy, the South Korean Puppet Embassy. We're hoping to go back there next year and picket. We've picketed the BBC 7 times, the British Brainwashing Corporation, which I think is one of the main sources of disinformation about the DPRK. And we've even picketed Channel 4, which is another British broadcaster. And we've picketed the MOD, Ministry of Defence once. We've also held 2 DPRK poster exhibitions with authentic, hand-painted posters from the DPRK. We've held those 2 exhibitions. They were very successful. Actually got more people coming to those than actually came to meetings. We've gone down the road of online meetings a lot. Firstly, because of COVID and the lockdown, because there was a period when, even if we wanted to, we could not hold any kind of meeting. And secondly, it makes it easier for more people to participate, because although the UK is a smaller country compared to a lot of places, not just the US but Germany, for example, there's very high transport costs in the UK, and as someone remarked, it was cheaper to fly to Barcelona than it was to get a train ticket into London. So we've gone down the route of online meetings, and we're hoping to develop that more. We've been active on Facebook for a long time, but we run into flack with that. So we're trying to branch out onto Telegram, even Discord, possibly Instagram as well. Our activities, plans for activities would be to expand our work, look for new areas that we can go into, increase active participation in KFAUK, so that's a big thing. I don't disclose numbers. We've got a big number of people who've signed up on email for KFAUK. But to speak honestly, not only a few of them actually participating in any kind of event. We want to increase that. I think actually by holding online events is a good way, because as I say, for a lot of people it's very, unless we hold a meeting in their local town, it's a big expense to get into London. Some people don't like going out. Some people don't like the idea of meetings. Some people are not activists. So, we'd be looking to do that, and also another activity, hopefully when the DPRK is open to visitors, which I think will be sometime next year. We'd like to send a delegation, and of course to the next KFA international meeting.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, my last question. So what are your observations about the KFAUSA, and do you have any advice for how we could kind of improve going forward?
Well, I think I'm quite impressed with the current direction of KFAUSA. You're certainly a lot more active than you have been for a long time. So I think, it's going in the right direction. I think, but, I'm sure as far as I know, you're doing it already. I think online meetings would be very good. Trying to hold them regularly, because, you face an even greater problem down in the UK in, distances. Obviously hold online events. I mean, I have to salute your courage and bravery, because I think if there's one country worse than Britain to work in, it has to be the USA. I'm sure you face many problems and incredible hostility, and again, it's the fact you exist in the first place is a very great achievement in itself. I would just say stay strong, hang in there, keep going, try to expand your online work, try to engage more with members. If you don't already have it, try and send out a monthly email to members. What we've done in KFAUK, but it's quite work intensive. We have a monthly PDF journal magazine called People's Career Today, which is free of charge, which we send a downloadable link to every KFAUK member. You might want to think about something like that, perhaps not monthly, perhaps just quarterly. So that's something you could do. But I'm quite sure that KFAUSA is going to go far. And it's an achievement that you've had a delegation of 2 people at this meeting, because I think last time I saw the KFAUSA delegation was back in 2016 in Dublin, and that was just one person. Stay in there, stay strong, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.